Loveland sales manager, Southeast Iowa and Western Illinois. Wanted to follow up on a trial here at our research farm we've been working on for 4 or 5 years now called RootZone Carbon, where we're injecting BlackMax 22, a 22% carbon source, in with our anhydrous in the fall. If you remember this plot this spring, I did a video on this, and this particular trial I got a gallon of BlackMax 22 with anhydrous versus straight anhydrous. I was out here this spring and we had a video, and we had significant root burn this spring, even several weeks after application of our anhydrous. Following back up on this, as you see today, here we're at the end of the growing season, but you know, there's so many benefits we're seeing from the RootZone Carbon. We've been managing nitrogen with Humic for several years. We've been seeing the benefits of Humic with our anhydrous to manage that nitrogen source for multiple years now, but each year we see something new and we learn something new. When we put Humic in the soil, we're increasing our cations and anion exchange by 200 to 250 each. So we have tremendous holding capacity of that anhydrous ammonia when it goes in, and that additional cations. As that anhydrous converts to a nitrite, then quickly to a nitrate, that anion then quickly attaches to that nitrogen source and holds it in that furrow. So we've been being able to lower our use rates 15 to 20%. Putting a product in Humic like in the soil, we're vastly increasing our good microbes in the soil. We're feeding our bacteria and fungi in the soil and our microbes so that we're getting equal amounts of fungi and bacteria in these heavily dominant bacteria soils that we work a lot. So we've been seeing a lot of benefits. Untying nutrient tie-up, you know, like zinc and copper and manganese that ties up in the soil. So we're seeing better uptake of all of them. But one thing we really noticed this year was the root burn. We've always known that Humic had the ability to buffer, you know, nitrogen burn in roots, and boy did it show out here. This particular side of the field here had 200 units of straight anhydrous nitrogen this spring. This had 220, so actually 20 more pounds with a gallon in furrow of the BlackMax 22. It jumped out at me this spring. We had much less root burn in this side of things. One of the things that's transpired over the course of the growing season is we've seen a lot of crown rot and root rot in these hybrids this year. And as I come out here this fall and I start digging these plants, walking through here, obviously I'll find some of these dead plants. That was a good indicator. That was one of the plants that had root burn. We flagged some plants and we dug them up. And sure enough, those plants that got root burn early was injured early. Not only was they slower to develop, slower to get out of the ground behind the other plants, but we start to see not only the crown rot, but the pythium in the stalk starting to decay. All that was attributed to that early injury early on. What we know about the plants that we put the BlackMax in is we're getting much healthier crowns in that plant. And how are we doing that, right? Well, not only did we buffer that root burn, but one thing that Humic Acid does with our proprietary blend carbohydrate package in there is we're feeding the good microbes in the soil, like Bacillus, Trichoderma, and Pseudomonas microbes in the soil. And what they really have the ability to do is when you feed them and repopulate them, they'll fend off soil pathogens like Fusarium, Pythium, and Rhizoctonia. So they didn't get into that plant earlier. So we're seeing a much healthier crown in this plant, obviously attributing to plant health throughout the season and season long. And when you grab these ears, right, the ear of a healthy plant, right, versus the ear, you might count kernels and they might look the same, but boy, when you take them and weigh them, you're seeing a significant yield difference in weight of 100 kernel counts. You're seeing much drier corn, right? And that'll attribute to test weight. So, you know, keeping these plants healthy, we all know that's a huge thing, but it's just one more thing we're seeing out of the BlackMax 22 and our RootZone Carbon trials, where we're backing off that high rate of nitrogen up front. We're giving more opportunity to mineralize micronutrients and other nutrients like potassium and phosphorus to get into the plant early, because we're not flooding that zone, right, with our ammonium. By doing so, we're increasing organic matter in the soils with these carbon products, right? We have multiple years of carbon products and biocatalyst technology to manage the residue out here. We're not working this thing to death every year. So we're balancing our fungal and bacteria. We're actually seeing increases organic matter. Why is organic matter important? This particular farm 4 or 5 years ago had 3.5 to 4% organic matter. We're now approaching 6% organic matter in about 5 to 6 years of multiple applications of biocatalyst technology to manage the residue, carbon in the soil. If you can increase just 1% organic matter, you can release 20 to 30 pounds more of organic nitrogen. Well, if I've truly increased 2 to 3% organic matter on this farm, I'm starting to build upwards, right, of 50 to 80 pounds of organic nitrogen for this soil for the next year's crop. You know, the other important thing with organic matter is just water holding capacity. As we improve our soil with these humics, we improve our soils and our ability to hold water. 1% increase in organic matter will hold an extra 25,000 gallons of water on that acre per growing season. So it's all about soil health. It's all about feeding the good bacteria in the soil and the microbes. It's all about balance, right? But what we're seeing can't be unseen with the naked eye. As you look at this crop, we actually had more nitrogen on this side, more root burn on this side, more crown rot on this side, right? And if I walk down here, I could walk you into a strip with only 100 pounds of nitrogen and another nitrogen management aid that we have called Infinity, where we're sequestering that free nitrogen in the soil and feeding that plant with that organic nitrogen that we talked about that this soil is now producing. And you couldn't tell the difference between 200 pounds of nitrogen and 100 pounds. Now, I'm not saying 100 pounds of nitrogen is going to get us to our yield goal, but what I'm saying is we're probably over applying nitrogen in some of these cases. I'd rather get that back to 0.7, 0.8 pounds of nitrogen per bushel if I can. Put a product like BlackMax 22 in furrow, product like Infinity on top or in furrow there to help manage that organic nitrogen. We're increasing soil health. We're feeding the good microbes in the soil. We're lessening disease in these plants and in these stalks, right? We're holding more water capacity. We're creating more free nitrogen for that next year's crop. So we're doing all these things with this RootZone Carbon. I'd rather put $15 or $20 in this kind of technology and improve my soil than flood it with more NP and K, right? And like I say, the truth is in the visual here. Can't wait to take this to yield, to share it with everybody. We knew early on we had a lot of damaged roots with that ammonium burn on them roots, but we see something new every year with this product. But talk about a total program with Loveland and our ability to manage nitrogen and increase our soil health benefits. And when you get that soil working for you, it's going to produce more hormones, more stress mitigators like salicylic acid. It's going to really start taking care of these plants for you. So if you haven't looked at RootZone Carbon, reach out to your Loveland representative. We'd be happy to visit more with you about it. Everybody have a safe harvest out there. Have a great day. Thank you.